We do have a quorum with Mr. Torres being absent. Dr. Randall, you ready to proceed with the review of the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The first item on the agenda is that the Board of Trustees approve the 2017-2018 student course selection catalog. Feel like I'm getting some feedback.
Echo.
And while there have been mostly changes that have been directed from the Texas Education Agency, I'll let Ms. Hack share a couple of comments and then answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you.
There were a lot of changes, but it's not anything that's unusual from last year. We had significant changes too, and when TEA makes the changes, we go back, and it was through the course of 4 course catalog meetings. The associates from the high school and counselors representation meet with Dr. Roberts, and they go through the changes, and then we note them in the course catalog. What we provide the campuses, and they will be getting this, the administration and counselors and all that on November 30th, they get a copy of the course catalog, and anything in yellow shows what changed. So they have a reference copy when they're working with and counseling students in preparation for the next school year. But if you have any specific questions about any of the specific changes, I'd be happy to answer those.
Ms. Hack, I don't have specific questions on the changes per se, but when you offer those catalogs to those campuses, do they choose those courses based on their staff and the amount of staff that they have, or?
It's open enrollment. So what the timeline or the process that happens is in January is kind of when our course selection season begins for the next school year. So all the courses are available online. The students can pick any courses, and we want them and their council to pick their areas of interest. And most of the time, if they're band or athletics and then they're pre-AP or AP, it's if they want a specific endorsement where the specific counseling comes, that they want to make sure they take that first year course or second year. While the course selection is going in, that's generally due by the Friday that we break for spring break. After that is when we run the course enrollment reports, and it tells us how many students have requested certain courses. And that's when we start adapting the hiring and the staffing to accommodate what the growth is, because it may vary from campus to campus. One campus may need 3 ag teachers because of the demand, and one may only need 2, and that's where the campuses adapt.
Do we have a lot of courses that are requiring the distance learning courses where the teacher's actually on one campus and the kids are at a different campus?
We don't have very many, and the only one that we're doing distance learning this year is computer science. And that's because that's a very few number of students at each campus, and that's also a very difficult area to hire. And so we have 2 computer science teachers in the district, and so we're working with them to make sure we can offer those DLL courses to the other campuses, and it's worked very well, but that's the only DLL course.
Will we get some kind of feedback, or will you receive some kind of feedback on how those kids are performing in comparison to the ones that have the teacher in the classroom?
Yes. In fact, we do monitor that, and that is something second 6 weeks. I don't want to go into specifics that we did look into and address to make sure. And the teacher that was providing the instruction actually went to the other campus on which the kids were receiving the DLL to provide some additional support. So it is monitored.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got a couple, just out of curiosity, on page 2, the Texas Virtual Schools Network is taken out.
Yes. That's just a service that we discontinued using, and it just wasn't a viable one.
Okay. And on page 12 under public service, going through these, I found some of these courses distributed elsewhere down the bottom there where they cross through. Is that just a redistribution of these courses to different areas?
You're talking about the public service?
Public service, yes. Those.
Yes. They actually moved under your health sciences, would have moved under.
Yeah, I found most of them. There are a couple of them.
And that's coming from TEA, where they're redoing the endorsements and where those courses follow. And so we're making the adjustments.
Okay, how about over on business and industry where finance is taken out? What?
That would be a course that probably was discontinued by TEA, and it picked up with a different course title.
Okay. So questions of curiosity.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and it's a lot, and this is what House Bill 5 and the endorsements, it has just opened up a whole strand of new courses for the students and meet their interest.
The legislature likes to make work for you, don't they? No comment?
We like this. This is good stuff.
All right, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is consider approval, or asking the board to approve the district instructional materials adoption committee members as submitted. And you have a revised copy that's at your desk. And we had to update two names, Will Leach and Maria Castillo. They're on your new copy. And Ms. Vogt is there prepared to answer any questions you got.
We began this process when the state approved the textbooks that were on the list. The main thing that is affected are load, of course, in CTE. The directors of both of those programs have solicited and gotten volunteers and experts in the area of both of those and have formed the textbook adoption committee. On November 3rd, Spring Branch had a vendor fair for CTE that all of the districts surrounding were invited to. November 10th was another one held in the Ailey Felsick 9th grade center. November 17th, again in Spring Branch. And then, of course, we have ours coming up right after Christmas break, and other surrounding districts will be there as well. For LOTE classes, Kim Leibarger is over our foreign languages, and she's following the exact same process. So we'll have a training of the textbook committee members on how to vote, how to make sure that the samples that they receive are in the central location in their schools where the other teachers can come and, of course, see them. And then we have a open vendor fair for the teachers to come, and then a public fair when all of the parent community is notified. And Mr. Rockwood, we've been working with him to notify all of the parents who are interested in coming to the adoption fair.
And where will that be?
It will be here. It will be in Brazos Crossing. Mhm. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, the
You're
next
welcome.
item on the agenda is asking the board to approve the revisions of EIC local to clarify the calculation of GPA and class rank related to students graduating under the current 4x4 structure and the new House Bill 5 endorsement structure. Any questions? All right,
Okay.
well,
Start taking place next year?
Our current juniors this year
Yes.
and thereafter.
Okay.
And so our current seniors are on the 4x4. They're graduating on our current GPA plan, and then we'll
So
make the
by next
adjustments.
year, everyone will be on?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
next item is asking the board to approve out-of-state travel for George Ranch High School Choir to travel to New York City, New York to participate in a Broadway in the Classroom Clinic on April 20th, 23rd through 23rd, 2017. The next item is asking the board to approve out-of-state travel for George Ranch High School speech and debate team to travel to Cambridge, Massachusetts to compete in the Harvard Speech and Debate Tournament from February 10 through 13th, 2017. The next item is asking the board to consider approval of budget amendment request. The next item is asking the board to ratify the financial and investment reports. And the next item is asking the board to approve McConnell and Jones for the district-wide department process audit in the amount of $217,956. Approve budgetary amendments as necessary and authorize the board president to execute the agreement. And we have a presentation, or at least questions for the group. I know we've got a number of the guys here.
Good evening. Representatives from McConnell and Jones are here in the audience if you have any questions specific to the submission that they made to the solicitation.
My only specific question is what's the source of funding?
That would be at your
General fund by budget amendment.
All right, thank you. I assumed that, but
I have one question. In this amount, there was for me, there was a question about extra expenses. And I think one of the departments was special ed covered. I don't know if we got the answer that it was or was not covered under this amount.
it was not included in that amount.
So we should anticipate it being a little bit more than what it's.
We choose to put special ed in there, yes, we'd anticipate that increasing.
Okay. That's it.
Any additional questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, we ask the board to approve donations to the district. And we have two donations, one to Campbell and then the other one to Common Threads. The next item is consider approval of moving services for Bentley Elementary. We're getting close. The next item is, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve Terracon for the geotechnical study for Terry High School baseball complex renovations. The next item is approve the design development for the band hall expansion at Lamar Consolidated High School.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Tim Coons, representing VLK Architects, as well as some of his staff are in the background. And Tim's going to do the design development presentation for you tonight for your consideration for approval on Thursday.
Thank you, Steve. Dr. Randall, members of the board, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to give you an update on the design development of the band hall additions at Terry High School and Lamar Consolidated High School. Over the last couple of months, we've had the opportunity to work with staff at both schools to finalize this design, and we feel like we have a great design moving forward here. Starting at Terry High School on the north end of the campus, that you have the existing band hall there highlighted in red. On both of these schools, what we're looking at is adding a 1,400 square foot rehearsal hall addition right adjacent to the existing band halls. As you can see on the diagram here, the turquoise space represents the area of where we're proposing these additions. Also within the project, we have at Terry High School an alternate bid for a drop-off loading zone. It was expressed during the design process that the school really needed an area to get the instruments in and out of that campus during events and such. So the design itself is going to be a fairly simple design, very minimal site improvements. It'll just be this small addition right on the plan south of the campus here. The rehearsal hall addition will have be set up with a typical teaching setup. You'll have an interactive board, marker boards, and it'll be acoustically sound for rehearsals for band. The exterior of the building will match the existing character of Terry High School, mixing split-face CMU, fluted CMU. Again, it'll represent the character, I'm sure, as much of you guys are aware of Terry High School. This is just some interior elevations of the space. I mentioned it'll be acoustically sound, so the entire room will have acoustic panels surrounding the space, acoustic baffles. The staff has requested that the space be somewhat of a neutral space as far as sound goes, not a dead space, not a live space, but a little bit in between there. So what we're representing here will give them the sound quality that they're looking for. Lamar Consolidated Band Hall, again, on north end of the site there, We're looking to add this addition just to the plan right of the existing band hall. The red line there shows the area of construction. We're trying to plan this, phase this with as little disruption to the campus as possible. Again, the character and layout of this space matches Terry High School. The character of the outside of the building will fit into the existing band hall architecture, the height and width of the building. You'll hardly notice that it's there by the time we're done. Again, same character on the interior of this space as just discussed at Terry High School. Right now, in working through the design, the project is on budget. Again, I mentioned the alternate bid. That's the only alternate bid on this project will be at Terry High School for that additional drive. Looking forward, we're looking to get your approval the next Monday night. We'll then start construction documents, looking to take bidding proposals tentatively in February of next year, and awarding a contract March 2017 with about a 6-month duration of construction, completing the project in September of 2017. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Dr. Harrell.
First of all, I appreciate putting the alternate bid for the drop-off zone. That helps us. That kind of stuff helps us if there's things like that that can make life easier for the students and the staff. On that note, since you met with the band directors and the other staff, from a size standpoint, any other features or technology availability, that kind of stuff, was there anything that was brought up that we should know about that they asked that was consistent, or are we pretty much addressed from all those standpoints their needs?
The only thing that I would say would answer that would be they would always love a bigger space. Right now, this is sized for about 35 students, which is about as big as we can make it with this budget. We originally had targeted about 45 to 50 students, but other than that, this meets the budget. This is also a much improvement for what they currently have.
So they'll still have the existing band hall, which is much bigger room than
Right
this.
adjacent to it, yes.
In both cases. We've minimized any interior renovations, so it's just basically punching the doors into the main building is about all we have, so.
Enlighten me why it costs $500 a square foot to build a building like this? Now, what do we spend on elementary school? $201 a square foot?
Yeah, it's a component of the size. Primarily, it's a small project on an existing campus that's occupied. It's just a small footprint. So that both VLK as well as our estimators have taken hard looks at the pricing and the estimates. It still comes down to the general contractors that'll bid this, but it is it's a lot of work. It's primarily high volume space that you don't get in. You spread that out over a elementary school campus, and the high spaces blend in with the lower spaces. So it's just a lot of high space concentrated in one small area, and it drives the cost per square foot. It's not a good comparison.
I would say it does.
Yeah.
Just an odd number to me. All right.
I just have one question. On the Lamar High School site, is that in that existing parking lot? So is it going to be taking?
Yes, it is.
A lot of teachers park over?
It is in the existing lot, and as you can see there on the red diagram line there, that's what we foresee as the construction area. But as far as parking being lost, there is a pull-through drive-in area to get to that lower parking. So we will lose 2-3 spaces, but we're going to recapture a couple by kind of closing that off a little bit. So.
But during construction, that might be
During
a little
construction, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Building on Dr. Harrell's question, any educated wild guess about the loading drive, what that additional cost would be?
Right now, we've estimated around $30,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The next item is approving Terracon for the geotechnical study for Foster High School water plant upgrades. The next item is approving HVJ Associates Incorporated for the pollution hazard survey for the Foster High School water plant upgrades. The next item is approve of the services for, service order for KCI Technologies for district-wide site lighting in the amount of 6% of the total construction cost plus additional services.
On page 70.
Ask that the board approve American Mechanical Services for the construction of the replacement chillers in the amount of $970,800. Now the district-wide site lighting services for KCI. The next item is asked that the Board of Trustees approve the out-of-district agreement with Fort Bend County MUD, number 142 for Bentley Elementary School and Agricultural Barn, number 2. And you have another addition there, and that is there primarily because there was a change to 403 on page 85. There was a change in use. And basically what that just says is that no activities shall be conducted within the subject tract which constitutes a nuisance to the neighboring residents within the district. That was removed. Next item is that the board approve the encroachment agreement with Capano NGL Services for Huggins Elementary School driveway improvements. And that's basically dealing with gas lines coming through. The next item is that the Board of Trustees approve a donation deed to Fort Bend County for the Declaration Lane on FM 1093. Or I should say deceleration lane.
So they'll slow down.
That's right. The next item is that the board approve final payment of $30,079.86 to Jocelyn Construction for the construction of the Williams Elementary water line and force main project. And the next item, we ask that the board approve the interactive whiteboard build-out project phase number 2 in the amount of $112,308.62 for hardware, services, and supplies.
Ms. Bosick, did we have any audience sign up to?
I did not receive any cards.
Thank you very much. We'll move into the information item.
Okay, the first information item is college readiness testing report.
Good evening. Today we're going to present the college readiness testing report, and it's composed of 3 different sections. The first one is advanced placement testing, and as you can see on the first chart located on 124, we've had a significant increase in both the number of students participating in advanced placement testing and the number of exams that we give. Just a rough figure, we've had a roughly 50% increase over the last 5 years in both the number of exams and the number of students participating in testing. And within this last year, we saw approximately a 20% increase year over year. Looking at our performance history, while we have expanded the number of students testing, we had a slight decline in overall scores in 3, 4, and 5 range, which, to go ahead and inform you, the range 3, 4, and 5 are scores that colleges consider as a student being qualified up to well qualified to use the AP exam to replace a course offered at a college or university. In looking at that, on page 127, we've taken a look at the number of tests that we have. There are 3 or above, and we've compared it to data from the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board about the cost for tuition, not necessarily fees and books, but the cost of tuition over the last several years. And our students and our parents saw a benefit this last year of approximately $1.4 million in tuition savings by earning scores of 3, 4, and 5 on the AP test, which year over year represents an increase of approximately $287,000.
It was a trade-off, if you will, encouraging more students to take AP courses because we knew we would significantly increase the number of students who could pass. And so the almost $250,000 there is tuition that was saved for our families that would not have been saved without the initiative to get more students to take the exam.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So what you just said was, I don't know if it was contradictory or maybe I just didn't quite understand. The amount of the percentage of kids that pass actually decreased, correct?
Slightly, yes.
2%.
By 2%.
How, 2%?
Yes.
But the increase of kids who actually took the course was increased
Approximately 20.
by 20%.
And of that 20% increase, it added the $250,000 in tuition
savings.
cost because
Okay,
they scored 3,
I
4.
understand now, okay.
Overall, more kids pass, it's just the percentage because we encouraged more to take them.
Right.
Correct.
I
Which
got
is
it.
going to
Correct.
happen.
Yeah.
The more people that take it, the probability there.
But that's still, the
That's
2%
still the
is
great-
not a
yeah.
significant
No.
increase. That's-
Not when you compare it to the 20%.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of those
Yeah.
kids.
As far as ACT and SAT testing, which comprise the last 2 sections of this report, this is based on figures for the class of 2016. So I have to caution when you're reading this that starting with the class of 2017, with this year's seniors, we have a new program in place called SAT School Day, in which we pay for the cost of students to take the SAT during a school day in the spring. Last year it was mid-April. This year it will be March 1st. So while numbers fluctuated slightly this year and kind of in a little bit of a downward trend by a few students, we're going to see a rapid increase for the class of 2017 and into the future in the amount of students who have taken the SAT, because we're now offering that as a benefit to them.
Did you say that it's for seniors in the spring?
It's actually, we start with juniors.
Okay.
We start with juniors. This was the class of 2016 was the last graduating class that didn't see this benefit. Starting last spring with last spring's juniors, now seniors, they see the benefit of the SAT School Day, which will be reflected when we revisit this report next year.
So the seniors this year took the exam last spring.
Yes, ma'am. So it's a lagging indicator.
Do we pay for them to take the test?
Starting, yes, with the SAT school day, we pay the cost of that. We receive a substantial discount from the College Board, and that not only helps our students, and many times have that first opportunity at taking a qualifying test to get into a college or university, but also has the benefit in the accountability realm of increasing the number of students that are considered prepared for post-secondary readiness.
Can the students use this test as the only one to take, or does
That,
it-
if
will
they
it apply?
score high enough, yes.
Do they get that option as well with the ACT or just the SAT?
Just the SAT right now. Our scores with both the ACT and the SAT, with the ACT, we remain higher than both the state and the national average, and with the SAT, we remain higher than the state average.
Are we encouraging the kids that are in, I guess, intermediate schools and junior highs to take AP classes?
Yes, ma'am. And actually, I think Ms. Vogt can speak a little bit more to that.
We met with a principal, I would say starting the year before last, and identifying students early. We actually run the profiles for them. With Brian's help, we disaggregated the data at the high school level so that we could see what was a profile of successful AP students at the high school when they were fifth graders. And we were able to use that then to say, this group, and it's a very, very large group, would really benefit, or looks like they have a good profile. Now, that's not exclusionary at all. Any student, it's open enrollment in pre-AP, but when we look at students who have a good, strong profile, we want to make sure they get in those pre-AP and AP courses along the way.
They still have to take a test though, too. And, because I know some children in Navarro, I'm sure they have to take an AP class, AP test?
No.
No. So then, what would qualify a student then to take AP classes in Navarro?
It's open enrollment. Anyone can sign up for an AP class. The profile is a little surprising. Most of our students, for example, who take AP math classes successfully, their average in fifth grade was, I think it was 86.
86.
I can look that up. So you tend to think that AP students are the straight A's all across the board, but it's surprising that it's really students who just have perseverance and grit, and they're generally very successful in AP classes.
And we use that data also in conjunction with, we give the PSAT at 8, 9, and 10, and we use that, the PSAT has an indicator called AP potential that measures, starting in the 8th grade, the potential for success, and we pair those data sets together to encourage more students to participate in AP courses.
I think that probably the underlying theme, though, is to work with that student and their parents to help them understand what's involved in an advanced placement class and get that commitment for them to take it.
So then the parents are informed, those parents that are of the students that are in Navarro, right, in intermediate school?
In sixth grade,
grade,
we
yeah.
begin having parent meetings about them, and they have an entire evening that's just devoted to discussing the different types of courses that are offered and what their students would need to be successful. The flyers that we send out that educate our parents about it, those are sent out in both languages. We do everything possible at that point in time because it's important, if you're going to be in AP courses, that you start early or as early as possible with pre-AP. That helps prepare you for that type of curriculum.
I still got a little disconnect here.
Okay.
When I first looked at the top of page 125, and it's great that we got more kids participating. But I also understand that we sort of help select these kids, encouraging them, have a profile that says these kids need to be encouraged to do this. I would have expected if we are targeting these kids and we think they have the capability, that we wouldn't have seen a decrease, even though we increased the number taking. We would, for instance, Terry High School, 22% passed, or got 3 or higher, and it dropped to 14%. Yeah, we had a big increase in the number, but I would have thought if we were targeting these kids, it shouldn't have taken that big a dive. I'm just,
Okay. If they're in an AP course, they are encouraged to take the exam. That's just a given. We did not cherry pick the students according to if we thought they would pass or not.
okay.
The reason for that is that just taking that AP exam is an education in and of itself. It helps prepare them for the types of exams they take when they're going into college level classes. So we have no expectation that they're going to pass the course. Our expectation is take the exam for the experience.
Okay.
This is a comment, not a question, but I think this is appropriate, and I'm afraid on Thursday I won't be able to make it. One of the other things that I saw personally happen is that now kids at a younger age can take AP courses. So because of their lack of experience and the fact that they're ninth graders, a lot of kids that I know went in to take an AP exam, and they didn't pass with a 3, 4, or 5. However, the experience, like you said, was outside of anything that they'd ever done before. So those kids may not have passed, but they're young, they're only in the ninth grade. These courses weren't available to them prior to this year, I believe, or maybe last year. So we saw an increase in those kids, and perhaps they weren't successful this year, but I guarantee you the next time they take an AP exam, they're going to be prepared.
Well, that's kind of input I need. You know, I'm engineering type. I look at numbers and, okay, well, I don't know exactly what was behind that and all the stuff that went into it. That's why I asked the question.
Well, I'd like to point out on page 124, and Terry is a good example of this. If we follow the trend for students, the number of students tested on page 124, we see that just in the last year between 2015, 2016, the number almost trebled. So we're getting the foot in the door to allow kids to take the course and to encourage kids to take the course is the big, important first step.
I really like this type of information that tells us what we're accomplishing with these kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have one more question, though.
Yes, ma'am.
The kids that are in sixth grade, and when they choose to take the AP classes, right, in sixth grade, so they're in the sixth grade.
Pre-AP.
Pre-AP, I'm sorry, and so they're taking classes, and let's say they're not doing so well. So are we discouraging the kids to maybe enroll in general classes after they've been in the AP classes for the first 6 weeks?
Actually, no. Part of the information items to the parents is that it's better to make a C in a rigorous class where you worked hard than to make an A in a class that was fairly easy for you. So we really encourage them to stay the course. Even at the high school levels, for example, at Terry High School, Dr. Osagi has a practice. If they want to drop a course, they have to come in and interview with him personally, if they want to drop down from an AP course. So it's probably, I would say, Ms. Gonzalez, just the opposite. We do everything we can, and sometimes it's not possible. We had a young lady, for example, just recently, whose mother would rather she got an A in a regular class than a C+, which is what she had in an AP class. And so we're working through that situation with the hope that she will stay in the AP courses.
Can we just be sure that we're doing that at, sixth grade and junior high? Because I hate for these kids to be discouraged from continuing on in those classes, because I just think that's a really good way of, inoculating the kids that you're in AP classes, and once you get them on AP classes, then, that's what I take in junior high. It's just a given. It's an expectation, Yes, it's the norm.
Absolutely.
So I want to be sure that that's happening both at Navarro and Westendorf and Georgia Junior High, because, they're going to go to Terry and they're going to go to Lamar, and we want the numbers to continue to increase in both of those grades.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is board policies, first reading, and you also had a revised policy that was placed at your desk this evening, and primarily we would just, that policy is just, you see it in red, where we're adding the Director of Special Programs in under EHBAF. And typically, this is first reading until next month, when it'll come back to the board for approval.
I had a couple of questions in these. On EHBAF local, on page 214, it talks about the people who can actually hear these recordings, confidentiality recordings, and it lists a number of folks down there. But if any of these things were to be escalated to the board, it doesn't say that the trustees would be able to view these. Page 214, it lists those 4 groups down there of people that can have the ability to see these recordings. If it actually were escalated to a board hearing, I didn't see trustee mentioned any place down here. We can request it on the previous page. Parent, trustee, or staff member can make a request for the video surveillance, but as the board, if it were escalated to us, this excludes us from seeing that video. Yes, no?
Yes. But I'm going to have our executive director double check that just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case, the way that the law is written.
Okay.
And I don't know very many of these types of things that actually escalate to the board, because a lot of the special ed stuff there, they have different routes that they normally take.
I understand that. It may never happen. It's just another one of those things that if it actually got that far.
But we can make sure we get clarification on that.
All right, thank you. Under CDC local, which is page 218, we approve on a monthly basis the gifts from the public in excess of $2,500, and this is changing to $5,000. I was curious of why that was. It's also, I believe it said it's going to be reported on a quarterly basis. Why is that changed?
Mostly just for efficiency. It's been quite a while since we've evaluated the limits on that policy. And 5,000 was chosen because that is our capitalization threshold amount.
Okay.
We feel like we're getting more and more donations of larger amounts, and a lot of times the donations, we get notice of the donations right after a board meeting, so then it's a month before they can start a process to use it. So we felt like it would be better to approve them internally and then have the approval ratified by you all on a quarterly basis.
All right, thank you.
So it becomes actually more efficient for the people trying to use it?
Yes, it's more efficient for them. That's how I should
I
have said
wondered about that.
You got me a capitalization threshold.
Okay.
On page 211, the instruction sheet, it doesn't list those last policies here. It listed the first 2, but it did not list, and I know it's a nitpick, but it didn't list the CDC nor the DK. If that's intended to be a reference sheet, probably ought to have it on it. That's all I have. Anybody else enjoy the reading? Thank you.
I did have one question. And it's on 221. And it's in regards to parent notification on classrooms.
Right, with the changing of No Child Left Behind, we have state criteria that supersede parent notification.
And
So
that's all it is? Because state criteria is what, 30 days?
30 days.
And I guess our district used to have 15 days?
We did.
I guess, so does this mean that we are doing away with 15 days and we're just going with the state recommended 30 days?
Correct.
I have a concern about those courses, especially in the junior high school, that may be affected by kids who are taking courses that affect their GPA, that are not being taught by a certified teacher, let's say, for example, algebra. And by the time that a parent finds out that their child is in an algebra class with a non-certified teacher, let's say because of FMLA or for whatever reason, I just really feel like parents need to be notified sooner, primarily because those courses count toward those kids' GPAs. And of course, like algebra, things like that are quite important. And so when we don't have a certified teacher in the class, I'm concerned.
I will say that for FMLA purposes, generally speaking, when we know those ahead of time, the notifications are prepared about the time the teacher goes out. So this is more, the exception more than the rule. It would be the later notification when it's unknown to us and it's a very abrupt FMLA situation. For the most part, we know pretty early on.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? Thank you.
Any questions on parent involvement update? Program grant to Foster High School?
I think that's a great thing.
Tax collection report?
Page 229, the 215 in prior years, we've collected 23.24%. What's our probability of getting the rest of that? Page 229.
I'm sorry, what was the?
Exhibit D, page 229, it says 2015 and prior tax years. Our budget amount is $2,150,000. Our collections as of 10/31 are $499,677. With a percent of budget collected at 23%, what's the probability we'll get the rest of that?
Very good. I think we usually end up around 1.8 million, 1.9, something like that. I don't know right now what the 2015-16 total is,
Okay.
but we should be close. I base the budget usually on prior year history, so it should be around a couple
Now that
million.
you said it, I remember you had a fairly high percentage. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Payments for construction projects? 2011 bond? Or monthly report for 2014 bond? Project funded by 2011 available funds? Transportation update? Energy management report.
I'll ask the same question I asked last month. Mr. McKeever, how many times has the board asked you about this report? Keep your seat, never mind.
At least it's in black and white.
Maybe it's up for removal. We're talking about it on Thursday.
That's it, Mr. President.
That completes it. I want to once again thank all the staff for all the preparation that goes into putting this together for us. We really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for their participation. We have no items for closed session, so we will close this meeting at 7:19.